supported Governor Newsom's run 2 years ago. Why are you calling for him to be recalled now?
Well, Emily, I mean, California today is not doing very well compared to other states. We have the highest poverty rate in the country. We have the highest unemployment in the country. We have the most homelessness. We have the worst income inequality. We have the worst air quality because of poor fire management. And we have the second worst education outcomes in the US. We're ahead only of Alaska. Crime is exploding due to lax enforcement, failures to prosecute. And on top of all of that, we have the highest tax rates and most burdensome regulations in the country, and that is driving successful business innovators and entrepreneurs out of the state. We saw Elon Musk go to Texas, perhaps the most important entrepreneur of our generation, and losing these types of companies is going to haunt California for generations. And I think people are really feeling it. In recent polls, 53% of Californians said they are thinking of leaving the state. And maybe even worse, 63% of Californians believe the American dream is dead here. And so I just think it's time to reappraise and take stock of where we are and make some changes.
So the governor's lockdowns have been especially controversial. His people, though, are saying this recall efforts is a waste of taxpayer money. I mean, how do you think the governor should have handled the pandemic differently?
Well, I'm glad that the governor now has finally ended the shelter in place, but it took far too long, and the thrashing around it was a disaster for small businesses. I mean, small businesses were told that they could safely operate outdoors, which is true, but then they were closed down after they made a bunch of expensive modifications, and now we're thrashing back to opening back up. We should never have thrashed around this way. You know, it was one thing to do lockdowns back in April or May of last year when the virus was still new. We didn't have all the data, but we now have data from a bunch of other states showing that states that have done less severe lockdowns have not done worse with the virus. And so we could have had, I think, much better policies. And the governor, I think, stubbornly refused to make changes. It took way too long. I think he's also been overly deferential to the teachers' unions as opposed to scientists on school reopenings. I think our most vulnerable students are falling massively behind. And frankly, we've had the lockdown rules have been completely random. I mean, if you're politically connected like the movie industry, you're deemed essential. But if you're working class, you're non-essential. Well, you know, in my book, I don't think anyone putting the food on the table for their family is non-essential.
I spoke with San Francisco Mayor London Breed last week, and to be fair, she's had her disagreements with the governor, but doesn't support the recall. Take a listen to what she had to say.
Well, my response is, do I think the governor should be recalled? No. Do I think that he's doing a good job in trying to manage this crisis in California? Yes. And we are working closely with him to do that. We have hard decisions to make, and our economy is suffering, but we also have to think about the lives that we are here to save as the priority, even though we know this is going to be a tough road ahead for our city and our state, but we're doing the best we can.
Now, David, even epidemiologists, some of them, are saying the state reopened too quickly last year. Are they wrong? And why, if they're wrong, are you right?
Well, I think that if you listen to most scientists, they've changed their minds about lockdowns, including the WHO changed its mind about lockdowns. First, they thought it was the right way to go. Then they realized that it's not the most, that the benefit cost isn't worth it. It doesn't necessarily slow down the virus that much. We've seen other states like Florida and Texas are doing better than California right now, despite not being locked down. And so I think there was a range of point of views on lockdowns that were fine to take, 8-9 months ago. But I think now with all the data we have, it was clearly the wrong approach and we should have adjusted sooner. I don't blame anyone for getting things wrong early in the pandemic, because there's so much we didn't know about this virus and we still don't know. But the question is, what is the rate of learning and are we adapting to new facts on the ground?
So let's talk about the horse you're backing. Why do you think Chamath Palihapitiya is the answer?
Well, so, I'm supporting Chamath because, first of all, he's a friend of mine. He's a very successful figure in the tech industry. But, one of the things that really impresses me about Chamath is, he grew up on welfare. He was dirt poor. He became successful in business. He understands both how business works, also how to make California successful, but he also has a lot of empathy and knows how to take care of the less fortunate. He's a Democrat who's donated a lot of money to the party. But he's a centrist Democrat, and I think he'll put the people first instead of special interests. He's not beholden to any special interests. And, I'm more of a centrist Republican, and I can say wholeheartedly that I support Chamath for governor. I think he's got a great platform that will revitalize California. And, I think right now there's a risk that people will just give in to cynicism and resignation, but we can do something about this. We just have to act.
So he is, as you say, a very successful investor. He used to work at Facebook, then became very critical of Facebook. But he's making really big promises here. No state income tax, kids being able to choose whatever school they want to go to, no student loans. The math repeatedly shows that tax cuts don't pay for him themselves. So how can he deliver on all these promises?
Well, Emily, California is in a very competitive environment right now. We're seeing that entrepreneurs are flocking to states like Florida and Texas. Miami and Austin in particular are becoming tech hubs to rival the Bay Area. And unless we start realizing as a state that we're in a highly competitive environment, we're going to lose this competition. You heard Elon Musk say that California's been winning for too long, that maybe it's starting to take for granted its success. And so, I see Chamath's platform as the start of the conversation. It's maybe not the end, but these are the right types of conversations. These are the right types of issues that we need to be discussing. And what issues, frankly, is Governor Newsom discussing? He just seems totally beholden to special interests, and I haven't heard any policy proposals out of him on how to fix the situation.
I know some of your friends and former colleagues have moved to Miami. Have you had any thoughts about fleeing there as well?
So, I've recently spent some time in Miami, and it's really a great place, but I'm still committed to, making San Francisco and California my home base. I really don't want to leave. I really would like to see California improve and get better. And this is why I think we need to speak out. A lot of people saying, like, David, why are you even speaking out about this? Why are you taking risks? Maybe this could be bad for business. But I really think we just need that first little kid to go out and say the emperor wears no clothes. And I think everyone's going to realize it's pretty much true.
So the recall effort, though, is facing long odds. Republicans have tried this multiple times already. It has not worked. You need 1.5 million signatures, and you've got 1.2 million, but those signatures need to be certified. The reporting is that there are many business leaders like yourself behind this, but also followers of QAnon and other extremists. Will you have enough legitimate signatures to make this happen?
That sounds like such a bizarre comment for people to be making about the recall. First of all, I'm not organizing it. I merely signed the petition and donated to it. But we're already at 1.2 million signatures. We only need 1.5 million. And we're planning on having a substantial buffer. So we think we can get to 2 million, so that when all the signatures get certified, it creates a buffer if there's any signatures that aren't valid. We're really on track for that right now. And if people want to sign, all they need to do is go to rescuecalifornia.org. So I tell everybody, go to rescuecalifornia.org. It's really easy. And then the other thing you should look at is go look at Chamath's platform and decide for yourself. He's created a website. It's called chamath4ca.com. chamath4ca.com.
Now, on another note, you've been very critical about the deplatforming of Donald Trump. Facebook suspending him indefinitely, Twitter permanently. What do you think a better solution is if the concerns are about inciting real-world violence?
Right. Well, what I've said, Emily, is, first of all, I don't miss Trump's tweets at all. That's not the point. The point about censorship is not just what views or people are you censoring. It's always about who has the power to censor. And right now, the issue I see is that big tech has all the power. There's a small cartel of tech monopolies who've gotten together on this issue, and they're dictating, who gets to participate in online speech. And it wasn't just Trump or his supporters. It was millions of Americans on apps like Parler that have been completely silenced and deplatformed. So Parler had 15 million users, 99% of whom never said anything wrong. And so, big tech here is really making all the decisions about what we get to see and read online and what we get to say. And they're even engaging now in a type of economic cancellation where people who don't have the right views are being denied access to critical online infrastructure for payments, for web hosting. And I just think this is a very dangerous trend. I just don't think big tech should be able to make these government-like decisions to deny people their civil rights without the American people having rights, an online bill of rights, if you will, to protect them.
Do you think Twitter and Facebook should let the president back on the platforms right now?
Well, I think there was an argument in the wake of January 6th. The initial argument for removing the president or his supporters was that there was incitement to violence. I understand that argument. While there's violence going on, clearly you take emergency actions. I think then the argument pivoted to, well, there could be disruptions to the peaceful transfer of power. And so that would be the argument, I think, for them suspending an account until January 20th. But now I'm not quite sure what the argument is exactly for denying any American permanently their free speech rights, especially when an entire cartel of big tech companies have done it. And so look, it's not specifically about Donald Trump. I don't miss the tweets at all, but I do wonder, what are our rights as Americans to free speech if we can be deplatformed by all the big tech companies?
So you've used the word monopolies, cartels, and I'm curious what action you think and hope the Biden administration will take on big tech. They're looking at not just Facebook, but Google, Apple, Amazon. Are these companies monopolies that you think should be broken up?
They're tremendously powerful, and I think breaking them up is something that should be on the table. I don't necessarily think all of them should be treated the same way, but yeah, I mean, these companies have become incredibly powerful, and when they get together and act in the same way with a single mindset, it can really deny people their civil rights. I've called this a speech cartel. So yeah, I mean, I think busting them up should certainly be on the table.
So what is your outlook for Silicon Valley and the markets in general under a new administration? You've been investing for a long time. I know you're out there placing your bets on trends that you think are taking off. What do you see in the future?
I mean, I think the outlook for tech is great. The truth of the matter is that innovation continues no matter which party is in power. This has been part of, I got into the tech industry in 1999. It's been over 20 years. And, there's always ups and downs along the way, but they're not really correlated with the political cycle. And, I'm tremendously bullish on tech. And frankly, it's more the rest of the country that I'm worried about, not the tech ecosystem.
What are you worried about?
Well, I mean, I think that what we've seen with COVID is that you certainly have some disparities that have gotten widened. I mean, let's face it, like big tech companies and even, some smaller tech companies in my portfolio, if you're in software as a service or you're in e-commerce, you've done great. But if you're a small business, you're a restaurant or some in retail or something like that, especially in the state of California, I mean, you've been absolutely devastated by these lockdowns. And I mean, you just look at the city of San Francisco, over 50% of the storefronts are closed. I mean, it's something out of like a dystopian movie or something. And so those are the people I really worry about. And I think we really need to do something about it. Big tech can't keep reacting with this icy indifference towards the rest of the country.